Hello and welcome back. It's good to be able to put a few of these Ask the Prof videos together while I was taking a little bit of downtime. The second half of the season is ramping up, but I'm still have a little bit of time and energy after a refreshing break to get some of this together. So today I'm going to talk about a device that many of you have seen, I'm sure. I posted a picture that I was playing around with it last October, just after Kona, and had a number of questions about it. Obviously, you've probably seen a couple of the Norwegians posting their pictures being showed using the Moxy Monitor, and yeah, I get a lot of questions about it. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. So with this video, I'm really going to focus on why you might use the Moxy and some of the pros and cons that might be associated with it. It's well beyond the scope of this video to go into to do a deep dive in the science on how you would use it and all the intricate details. If the video does well and there's enough interest, maybe I'll do that in the future. If that's something that's going to be useful to everyone in there, please leave a comment below or ask the questions below, and we can go from there if that's something that you all wanted to see. But yeah, this is really going to primarily discuss how, why and what the benefits of using this potentially could be. It is not the easiest device to use and understand. You do have to have a understanding of how the body works and adapts to exercise in order to really get any meaningful data out of it, or have a coach who's reviewing things for you and can kind of adjust things that way as well. It's not something that you can just, see a number and know exactly what it's going to mean. It's not like a heart rate monitor or power meter. It works great with conjunction with those, but it does require a little bit of a higher level of understanding in the human physiology, sport physiology, in order to really get much from it. Now, the Moxy website has a lot of great information. There's links to articles, there's links to videos, and there's a full education course that kind of goes through the intricate details of things and will give you a brief understanding. But again, if you have no physiological background, it is going to be a little bit more of a difficult adoption for a product for you. That is one of the barriers to entry, is just kind of the knowledge thing, and they will openly say that it's really for those looking to go after the next the last 2%. That's always so hard to come by, and so it's kind of their marketing and everything is geared towards the higher performing athletes. They have done a much better job of continuing to add apps and integrate things. I believe they're going to be able to be shown on Ruby here very shortly, if not already. They do work with like Training Peaks. You do have to do things a little bit differently. You have to look at it through a scatter plot, so it doesn't just simply overlay over the normal power, temperature, pace, heart rate graphs that you're seeing, but you can do a scatter plot and see the information there as well, which does definitely help a little bit. It's one extra step, but it's a lot better than not being able to access the data there. They do also have some of their own software, or some software out there. Some other programs are actually integrating with this much better than Training Peaks at this point. But I guess since most of my audience is I'm assuming on Training Peaks, I guess that's how I'm referring to. It does work with Garmin very seamlessly. There's a couple other devices that it also will work with. You do have to download the widget, but you can put it on the screen and you can choose to look at your SMO2 or your THB, or both if you'd like. And more on that in just a minute. So the Moxy Monitor is a small wearable device. I always wear it on the left quad. That's where they suggest you can either slip it right under your bibs, or you can put it they have a sleeve or a set of run briefs that you can use, or you can tape it on. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it. Again, all that information can be found easily on the website. What it measures is two things called SMO2 and THB. So obviously, like I mentioned before, you have to have some level of understanding of physiology to really get this device. And yeah, so SMO, what is SMO2? It is basically a measurement of the hemoglobin and myoglobin. Hemoglobin is carrying, the heme is blood, so that's the molecule that carries oxygen in the blood, and myoglobin is what carries oxygen in the muscle. And so basically SMO2 is the percentage of those two things that have oxygen attached to it. What happens in the body is when your blood or your muscle has a lot of oxygen, it is a brighter red, and when it has less oxygen, it starts to turn more bluish. And so what the Moxy can do is uses it senses that color in the muscle. It can go through, I think, of almost over a half inch of the fat tissue on the quad, so it can get into the muscle itself and actually measure how much of the myoglobin and hemoglobin is saturated. And that's what the SMO2 measurement is telling you. So when you are consuming more oxygen than is being replenished, obviously the SMO2 number will then go down. When you are, in a nutshell, when you are able to replenish more than you're using, then it should start to creep back up. So you can see the use case for this of being able to understand what's going on inside the muscle itself, rather than just, setting at a set power or set heart rate and assuming that you know what's going on. This gives you the accurate measure of really what's going on. The use case for this is not typically while you're at rest. There could be some benefits to doing that, but there's a lot of variables because the blood flow is so low while you're at rest. And so this is really meant to be used while you're performing your sport. And that is another benefit of this as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you can use this swim, bike, or run, or whatever your sport is. It has a number of training applications, even in anaerobic based sports. Whereas when I'm thinking about it in terms of heart rate, power, pace, all those things, you really can't measure, compare swim to bike to run like you can here, because this is one unit that is going to give you the same type of data over all three sports. The other thing that this unit can measure is something called THB, which is total hemoglobin, and essentially hemoglobin and myoglobin in or around the muscle. And so what we can infer is, as this concentration is going up, that would suggest that more blood volume is going to the area, whether it's through vasodilation or some other reason. But it's going to suggest that you are getting more blood flow, or if that number is going down, you have a lower concentration of hemoglobin, myoglobin in the area, and that would suggest that that number is then going down. One thing to keep in mind is that this THB number is going to be very specific to the area. If you move the sensor an inch up or an inch down, the THB numbers are going to change. However, if you're not moving the sensor around, it's going to give you consistent readings for that general area. And so you can't really use this to compare workout to workout, but you can use this within each individual workout. So you have the SMO2 number and the THB number, and by using those, you can really help to dial in and fine tune a number of different aspects of your training, whether it's in a given workout, or learning how to optimize your warm-up, learning rest and recovery intervals, things like that. Those are all things with these two numbers you can really personalize and dial in. So in my opinion, the biggest use case for the Moxy is to individualize and tailor your interval training to exactly what you're trying to accomplish. So, you might be asking, why not use power, pace, or heart rate? A couple of reasons that this data could be more useful. Heart rate always lags. So if you're doing, especially if you're doing shorter intervals, then your heart rate is going to be lagging a little bit behind. So this is going to give you real-time information of what's going on within the muscle, rather than waiting for the heart rate to kind of catch up. Also, heart rate can be affected by caffeine, can be affected by stress, can be affected by altitude, all these different things. Whereas if you have this, you know exactly what's going on inside the muscle. Power meter is the same thing. Altitude, when I go, I was just back in Iowa recently. Obviously, that's just easier to produce the power than when I'm up living at above 6,000 feet. So that kind of takes it out of it. You know exactly what's going on inside the muscle, and you can say, okay, I want to do these intervals at this SMO2 level, or I'm going to do it at this power, but this SMO2 level is my cap. So if it starts to get above that, I need to back off a little bit. Or, if it's consistently reading well below, if it starts to get below that, I need to back off a little bit. Or if it starts reading consistently, above that, meaning you have plenty of oxygen or more oxygen than you need to be in the desired training zone, then you can maybe push a little bit more. So again, it just really helps you to be able to fine tune things a little bit without some of the variables that might exist with, power, pace, and heart rate. Pace, obviously, I didn't mention, but obviously going up and downhill, that doesn't really help you out that much when you're running. It's hard to know. You can go by RPE in that situation, but again, when you know exactly what's going on with the muscle, there can be a lot of benefit to that. A couple other benefits or use cases for this. Obviously, a lot of age groupers are time crunched. They're working a job, they have a family, and they're trying to optimize their training as best they can for their hobby. And what you can do with this is really learn to dial in your warm up. Like as a pro athlete, I can take an hour for a warm up, and I often do just because I have plenty of time. But if time is of the essence, as they say, you can really use the THB to see when that vasodilation has actually happened. You're starting to get higher and higher concentrations there. You can see, okay, it's time to go. I'm ready. My body's ready to go. So you can individualize that a little bit and just learn how your body functions a little bit more efficiently. For me, obviously the warm up before a race is very important. So I don't want to burn a ton of extra energy, but I want to make sure my body is ready to go, especially if I'm doing 70.3 or 100K. You have to be ready to go straight from the gun. And so this can help make sure that you're not doing too much, but you're good and ready to go by the time the gun goes off. Another part that you can use this for is monitoring your recovery. Again, ensuring that on your easy days, you're actually going easy. That's one of the things, as a coach, I see triathletes doing way too much of, is going way too hard on the easy days, and that's going to have a effect on recovery, and obviously it's going to make the harder days be a little bit blunted as well. And so this could be another way of just giving you tailored feedback that, hey, your SMO2s are way too low for what is supposed to be a recovery day, so you need to back off. So a question that I get quite frequently is why not just use the lactate strips? And obviously this isn't measuring lactate, but there's a lot of associations that are, that you can make here. And, using lactate strips is great. I've done it in the past. I will do it again, as I really kind of try to fine tune my build into the next race. But one, the lactate strips are expensive. Two, you are only getting to do a test every 30 minutes or every hour or whatever, and you typically have to stop. If you're riding outside, you have to go back to the car and do it, or carry everything in your pocket, stop and do it. It's probably not the safest thing to be doing as you're going 30 miles an hour down the road. If you're running, you definitely have to stop. You have to take a little bit of time. It just interrupts training. While it does give you very valuable insights, it's not the easiest thing to do by yourself. Most of us don't have a coach that's following us around 24 hours or for every single workout. So while the lactate strips do give you very great information, if they work and if you use them correctly, a lot of times people get way too many errors because they touch the skin with their with the sensor or with the strip, and it just causes issues. So while there's a great amount of value you can get from the Moxy actually gives you real-time consistent data, and it's going to transfer into your training platform. Most training platforms in some way. You can always download the CVS file from Garmin as well and make your own graphs in an Excel document if you don't like the way that it looks. That's typically what I do myself. So if you don't like the way that it looks in whatever platform you're using, you can do that as well. So there are definite benefits over lactate, or using lactate in the controlled environment, and over, figuring out the SMO2 THB levels that you want to be at for each stimulus that you're trying to get, or each training zone that you want to be addressing while you're in a controlled environment and running on a treadmill or working on the trainer, and then using the Moxy outdoors to again have that consistent feedback without having to interrupt your training. In terms of drawbacks, we've really discussed the main one, and that's just knowledge is the drawback. I'm constantly pushing for education for coaches, but that's obviously it takes a lot of information and a lot of understanding to really be able to use this well. And so for self-coached athletes, it's not the easiest thing to use. Even for a lot of coaches out there, they just don't have the background in XFIZ in order to really use that. So there's just going to be a learning curve for anybody that is a new adopter of this, and that's the biggest drawback. But overall, I think there is a lot of value to it and a lot of potential to really customizing everything for you. And so if you're, that athlete that is feeling like they're kind of to the point where they just need to find that extra 2 to 3 to 4%, where, they need a little bit more than just, go out and ride at 80% today, then, this could be a device that's beneficial for you. That's all I have for you this time. Again, this was more of the why, not the how. So if you are really interested in this, if there's enough interest, I would be happy to do another one covering more of the how on a future video. But this one is well long enough. And yeah, if you've made it this far, hit the like button on your way out, and we'll see you next time.